My sister demanded I apologize or move out. After I questioned her parenting. Get out of this house, Dad told me. By morning, every one of their accounts had vanished. People say blood is thicker than water, but in my experience, money and manipulation turned out to be thicker than both of those things. I spent 2 years living with my father, my sister, Emily, and her son Owen, who was 6 years old back then. Not because I was struggling to survive on my own, but because they were the ones falling apart. Can you imagine being kicked out of your own home by your own father after spending years literally keeping his family afloat? It felt like a gut punch, a total betrayal, but what they didn't realize was that they were cutting off their own lifeline. For years, I was the unseen force holding my family together. My dad, bless his heart, actually thought I should retire. Retire from what? From propping up his entire household. My sister, Emily, hadn't worked in ages, and my nephew, Owen, was a bottomless pit of needs. Clothes, dental visits, school fees, it all piled up. And guess who was footing most of those bills? Honestly, the amount of stuff in that house I paid for? It's embarrassing to even admit. A small contribution for power? That was just the beginning. I was paying for Wi-Fi, then groceries, school supplies, Netflix, the water bill, Costco runs. I even bought Owen a bunk bed for his room. They called it temporary assistance. It was never temporary. It just never ended. And I didn't complain. Not really. I just thought, they're family. We're all struggling, right? Oh, how wrong I was. Then came the incident. My dad's vinyl collection. His pride and joy. He kept those records under lock and key, literally never letting anyone touch them. One day, I came home after a brutal shift, utterly exhausted. I just wanted to crash. But when I opened the door, my stomach dropped. Records were strewn everywhere. Black discs, vibrant neon marker. Owen, my sweet nephew, was sitting in the middle of it all, legs crossed, Sharpies in hand, caps missing. My dad's priceless collection. Destroyed. I didn't yell. I was too tired, too stunned. I just calmly asked Owen who told him he could do that. His innocent answer, Emily did. She said to keep myself busy while she went to the store. The entire living room looked like a kindergarten art explosion. Half an hour later, Emily waltzes in. And instead of looking at the disaster, instead of any regret, she immediately turns her fury on me. She started screaming that I had no right to question her son, that I had traumatized him. I was speechless. She didn't even care about my dad's destroyed vinyls. I just snapped. I started ranting about her parenting, about how I'd been seeing this coming for years. And then, Dad walked in. He saw the records. His precious records. And he looked at me, as if I had done it. Emily, ever the victim, dissolved into tears, claiming I made Owen cry. And Dad, my own father, stood there, arms crossed, and told me to apologize. Apologize? For what? For asking a question. I thought he was joking. I waited for him to laugh, to tell me it was all a big misunderstanding. But he didn't. Instead, he doubled down, accusing me of overstepping, of constantly criticizing Emily. I stared at him, bewildered. Are you serious? I asked. His response was cold. Clear. Apologize, or leave. No discussion. No debate. For 2 years I had been their personal ATM, their chauffeur, their concierge. I'd put my own debts on hold to buy them what they needed. I'd canceled dates to drive them around. And now, because I wouldn't bow down to my sister and her destructive child, I was being disqualified. From my own home, my own family, my only response was a quiet, okay. That night, I packed. Just my laptop, my documents, a few clothes. Nothing else. No goodbyes. No note. By the time they woke up, I was gone. Emily's phone plan? Gone. My name was on it. the Wi-Fi, Cuff, Netflix, Amazon Prime with that monthly delivery service. Kaput. Every single utility I'd been paying for under my name? Terminated. It all vanished. Like smoke. Like I had vanished. By lunchtime, my phone was blowing up. 15 texts. Emily, absolutely livid, because her phone suddenly had no data. Owen couldn't watch his cartoons. My dad called twice, demanding to know why the water was off. Even my cousin Natalie texted, confused because Emily was already spinning some wild, victim-wide tale about me storming off in a rage. I ignored them all. They thought I was just leaving. But I wasn't just leaving. I was unplugging. Completely. 3 days later, Dad called again. Emily had left 4 voicemails, a delightful mix of threats and tearful pleas. You don't have to be so dramatic. Owen's confused why you're being so nasty. My personal favorite, you need to grow up and come home. Me grow up? I didn't answer. I wasn't ready. And honestly, I had nothing left to say to them. They still didn't get it. They didn't understand just how much I kept that house running. It wasn't just the bills. I had built an entire ecosystem around them. I held all the insurance login info, paid the car plates, booked appointments, even reordered Emily's contacts when she ran out. When they'd say, Sarah will take care of it, they weren't kidding. And now, Sarah was done. The first real impact hit a week later. Dad's energy bill was past due. Power cut off in 3 days. He called in a full-blown panic. No greeting, just a lecture about personal responsibility. I just asked, do you still want that apology? He hung up. Next, Emily's auto insurance expired. Her car got towed from a parking lot. She called me, weeping and screaming that I'd abandoned them, that Owen was so scared walking home in the dark. Again, I didn't answer. Every week, a new disaster. The fridge broke. No one knew how to schedule a repair. Owen's school lunch account went empty. Emily's phone completely bricked. I never bragged about it, so they never knew how much I quietly handled. The worst part, I hadn't even paid off the credit card debt I'd racked up covering their groceries and bills. I'd paid an $800 vet bill for their aging dog. Not even my dog. At one point, I was literally contributing more to their lives than to my own. And now, they were floundering. That house was falling apart without me. Then came the inevitable, the family texts. Emily started reaching out to anyone who would listen. Cousins, aunts, old acquaintances, painting me as the villain. I'd walked out after a disagreement and abandoned family in need. Funny how she conveniently forgot the part where they literally threatened to kick me out over a 6-year-old culling on irreplaceable records. Texts started rolling in. Some were just curious. Some were clearly on Emily's side. But a few actually asked what really happened. I knew exactly who to call. My Aunt Linda. She was the only one in our family who saw through Emily's victim act. I laid it all out. Years of financial support, the escalating demands, getting kicked out for refusing to apologize to a kid who defaced my dad's prized possessions. Linda didn't say much at first. Then she asked one simple question. Is it true you handled everything for them? Oh, I didn't just answer. I emailed her a mountain of evidence, screenshots, receipts, payment confirmations, Emily's desperate texts asking for money, even the last utility bill I'd paid from my account. Her reply? 3 words. I believe you. I knew, deep down, that wasn't the end. I had no idea what she'd do, but I knew it was going to be big. It was going to change everything. Aunt Linda didn't immediately confront them. That's not her style. She's like a freight train, slow, quiet, and you don't see it coming until it hits you full force. I wondered if she was just processing, maybe even hoping to avoid the drama. Then, a text from my cousin Allison. Did you hear about the cruise? A cruise? I had no idea. Turns out, our entire extended family was planning a massive, week-long summer cruise to Alaska next year. And Linda was organizing it all. She was already setting up groups, sending out reservation links. Everyone was buzzing about it in the family group chat, a chat I was no longer part of, thanks to Emily's little victim campaign where she'd conveniently removed me. I asked Allison, "Is Emily, Robert, and Owen in the group?" Allison's answer sent a shiver down my spine. "Nope, they are not invited." At first, I thought maybe they just hadn't booked yet. But then Allison explained. Linda had made it crystal clear to the whole family, some people will not be permitted to come on this trip. She never named names, but everyone knew exactly who she meant. I was floored. Things got even stranger. A few days later, Robert showed up at my door, unannounced, carrying a six-pack like it would fix everything. I didn't let him in. He stood awkwardly in the hallway, wanting to talk. He started about the cruise, calling it a misunderstanding, saying Linda was overreacting because she's sensitive to family drama. Then he said something that made me laugh out loud, a bitter, hollow laugh. "You know, if you could just clear things up with her, maybe she'd let it go." Let it go? Me? I just stared at him. I said nothing. I watched him squirm until he finally mumbled something about Emily not meaning to cause trouble, and Owen missing me. 5 minutes later, he was gone. 2 days after that, Emily called. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was a chaotic mix of fake apologies and furious accusations. I was turning the family against her. I was shattering the family unit with my atypical behavior. I didn't reply. For years, I was their safety net, their problem solver, their go-to person whenever life got a tiny bit uncomfortable. The second I needed a shred of respect, they threw me out, and they honestly thought they'd get away with it. But now, they were starting to feel the consequences. Meanwhile, Linda was working. Silently, methodically. She started talking to other relatives, sharing the receipts I'd given her. She wasn't loud or dramatic. She just quietly fostered understanding. And slowly, steadily, the rest of the family started to pull away from Robert and Emily. It wasn't just about money and amour. It was a loss of faith. And for people like them, that was far worse than anything I could have ever said. But the real bombshell? That was still coming. And it didn't come from Emily or Robert. It came from Uncle Joe. Quiet Uncle Joe, who usually kept to himself, never got involved in family drama. I hadn't heard from him in months. Then, a text, "Call me when you can." When I called, he didn't even say hello. He just asked, "Did they use your information for their tax returns?" I didn't have to wonder what he meant. I knew immediately. For years, Emily had sweet-talked me into letting her claim some child tax credits under my name. "It'll help everyone in the house, Sarah," she'd said. "It's just a phase." I was exhausted, working 2 jobs, and just naive. I never saw a cent of that money, and they still begged for more, as if I hadn't given them anything. Joe told me his friend in IRS compliance flagged some odd files connected to Emily and Robert. My name was linked to benefits I wasn't eligible for. Joe wasn't trying to scare me. He was already working to clear my name. But then he said something that chilled me to the bone. "Sarah, they knew exactly what they were doing." Those words echoed in my mind. Later that week, Linda hosted the family cruise planning party at her house. Everyone was invited, except Owen, Emily, and Robert. But did that stop them? Of course not. They showed up. Allison texted me in all caps, giving me a play-by-play. Emily walked in like nothing was wrong, then immediately started screaming that I'd turned the whole family against her, and that she was being excluded. Robert just stood there silently behind her, letting her do all the dirty work. Emily actually argued that it was unfair to punish Owen for adult-level drama. Linda didn't raise her voice. She just asked one question, a single, devastating question. Are you able to reimburse Sarah for everything she's paid for over the past 2 years? The room went absolutely silent. Emily stammered, trying to deflect. Robert mumbled something about it not being about money. That's when Joe stood up. For the first time in years, He walked to the table and placed a stack of printed statements down. Everything. Utilities, food, phone bills, subscriptions, all paid for under my name. He didn't say much. He didn't have to. Linda then looked at them, her voice calm but firm. You weren't invited. Not because of Sarah, but because you exploited her. You lied about it, and then you tried to make her the villain. She made it crystal clear. They wouldn't be going on the trip, or even welcome in her house, until they made amends, until they paid back every penny they'd taken. That's when Emily started screaming. Robert just turned and walked out. But this time, no one followed them. The next evening, my phone was a mess again. Emily, switching between tearful apologies and raging accusations. Robert, asking to talk. Even a short voicemail from Owen, wanting to speak to me. I didn't respond. They thought the worst thing I could do was leave. But the worst thing I did was simply not come back. After that disastrous cruise meeting, they went quiet for a few days. I knew it wasn't over though. Some people, like Emily and Robert, don't just disappear. They try to crawl back. They started trying to salvage their reputations. Allison told me Emily was sending individual texts, clarifying the situation. She claimed I was going through something, lashing out, that the record story was overstated, and my money wasn't a significant contribution. She even suggested I was having some kind of breakdown. But it didn't work this time. Linda had already armed everyone with the facts. Joe quietly confirmed the tax fraud was real and serious. So when Emily tried her usual victim narrative, people didn't buy it. Most didn't even reply. A few just blocked her. Robert tried calling Linda, but she wouldn't take his calls. Neither would Joe. Then came the final, decisive blow. Linda distributed the official cruise itinerary. Flights, cabins, room pairings. Allison, her husband, and a few other relatives I loved were listed in a big suite. Emily and Robert's names? Nowhere. But at the bottom, a tiny, chilling note. All arrangements final. No changes. Robert's was not one of them. The word spread like wildfire. That night, Emily texted me, "You really think this is fair?" Owen was looking forward to it. He did nothing to you. Then Robert texted, "Whatever grudge you're holding, it's gone too far." That's when it hit me. They still didn't get it. After exploiting me, lying about me, trying to disgrace me, they still believed they were entitled to everything. For the first time in weeks, I replied. One word. Goodbye. Then I blocked them both. The next morning, I got a Venmo notification. Emily had tried to send me $40. I almost laughed out loud. Was it a peace offering? Or just a desperate attempt to spark another conversation? Either way, I declined it. I didn't need their money. I just needed my life back. And now, I finally had it. I woke up on the morning of the trip to a stillness I hadn't felt in years. No pounding on the door. No Owen's drawings plastered on the walls. No Emily screaming from across the house. Just the gentle hum of my phone on the nightstand. A new email. Subject, congrats. I didn't open it. I took my time packing, savoring the silence. My flight to the port city was at 10:40 a.m. At the airport, Allison sent me a selfie with a mimosa. Vacation begins right now, she texted. Linda had orchestrated everything. Flights, transportation, even matching luggage tags. As I zipped up my suitcase, a strange sense of serenity washed over me. Like I was finally closing a chapter. Then, just as I was about to leave the house, a knock. Soft. Hesitant. I knew who it was. I didn't open the door. My phone buzzed again. An unknown number. I glanced out the upstairs window. Robert and Emily were on my porch. Way outside. Please, just talk to us. 5 minutes. Owen was in the back seat of their car, kicking his legs. For a few moments, I just watched them. Standing there, occupying a space that used to be mine. Then, I turned away. By the time I reached the terminal, everything had changed. Laughter. Sunlight. The distant sound of steel drums over the speakers. Allison rushed up, hugging me like we'd just seen each other weeks ago, not years. Linda handed me a glossy cruise badge with my name emblazoned on it and a full itinerary booklet. As we boarded, someone mentioned Emily was still calling other family members, trying to guilt-trip them into pity. Linda winked at me. You made the right call. Emily was apparently heartbroken about the vacation and felt it was unfair Owen had to pay the price for family drama. But no one took the bait this time. Not even the cousins who used to back I up. Linda had quietly laid out the facts. Just the facts. No drama. And Emily, for all her spinning, couldn't wriggle her way out of the truth. A few hours later, we pulled away from the dock. Everyone leaned over the railing, pointing, taking pictures as the shore faded away. I stood back, a drink in my hand, watching the beach disappear. I thought about everything I'd done for them, financially and emotionally. They never understood, until it was too late, that I was the one keeping everything afloat. I hadn't sent a goodbye text. I hadn't unblocked them. I hadn't opened that email. All I did was let the distance widen. They were back there, somewhere, in that old house, telling themselves I'd eventually come around. With no electricity, no Wi-Fi, no help. But I wouldn't. This cruise wasn't just a vacation. It was proof. Proof I could thrive without them. And proof they couldn't function without me. As the ship sailed further and further away, I finally, truly, let out a breath. Not because I'd won, but because I was free. Have you ever had to cut ties with family, even when it felt impossible? What was your breaking point? I'd really love to hear your experiences and thoughts in the comments below.